Hello geometry students. Today is our second lesson. I'm sorry I didn't have it for you yesterday. I hope that you have already built all of the paper 3D shapes that I sent you in the email, and I hope that you watched the 6-minute video for Math 8. I have already done that, so why repeat it, right? The explanation, I apologize for the bright white light, still learning. I think that was the first day of taping, way back in March. So anyway, I'm here to finish the lesson for you. So let's say a prayer and get started. Father in heaven, we just thank you for this day. I pray all of my students would focus and master this material. They would go through it step by step and go slow because there are a lot of details. And you'd strengthen me and help me to be the very best teacher that I can be for them. In Jesus' name, amen. All right, so I hope you're enjoying the beautiful weather. I already mentioned that, but it is here. It's lovely outside. I'm looking forward to getting outside after I finish my math, and I hope you can go outside when you finish your math too. So I'm going to sit down now and put the screen on. Now this is lesson 12.2, and I already drew my pictures because I want to save as much time as possible. So please, please pause the video when you need to catch up with the pictures, all right? So here I have a picture of a right triangular prism. So I have my two triangles here, and they're right triangles. The bases are right triangles. And I want to find the surface area. So I'm looking not for the volume inside, but everything on the outside. So let's say I had a gift I wanted to give. The surface area would be like the wrapping paper you would put around it if you wanted to fit it exactly. Okay? So now when I do the surface area, I like to have an overall big plan and then break it down into small parts. So what we have here, when I'm trying to find the surface area of this shape, is I'm going to have two triangles that are exactly the same, because by definition a prism has two of the same bases. And I'm also going to have three rectangles, but they're all different. Do you see here? I've got 20, I've got 25, and I've got 15 here. All three of those sides are different, so I'm going to put 3 different rectangles down. So my total surface area is going to be 2 triangles plus 3 different rectangles. So while I'm doing this, I can kind of in my mind check off every part, and I can look back up here when I'm done and make sure I have them all, because there's a lot of little pieces. Okay, so for the first one, the triangle is 1/2 base times height. So let's see. I have right here, I have this is the triangle, and my right angle tells me where the height and the base are. So my base is 20, and the height is 15. So when I work that out, half of 20 is 10, times 15 is 150. So I have 150 for that piece. Okay? Now the first rectangle, I have one on each side, remember? So that's going to be length times width. So let's start with the one that's over here on the right side. So I've got this one right here. I'm going to change colors real quick so you can see which one it is. It's right here. Okay? So that would be 15 times 38. And when I work that out, that is 570. Okay? My second rectangle is also length times width. I'm going to change colors again to highlight it. And let's do the back one. So the back one now would be this length here and the one down there underneath, okay? So this is 20. And over here, this side is 38. So by definition of a rectangle, this side has to be 38. So I hope you can read that. It's going to end up being 20 times 38. And for that one, I get 760. Okay? Now, the last one, just change colors again a couple times. The last rectangle. How about purple? Okay, it's going to be the one on the bottom. So that's going to be this length here, which is 25. Again, I'm using 25 and 38. So I have 25 and 38. Boy, they're looking like rainbow numbers, aren't they? A little bit hard to read. I'll rewrite this one. The bottom one is 25 times 38. Good news, you can use your calculator for this. Just have to show your work. You want to write it all down. So when I multiply 25 times 38, I get 950. Okay, so for my plan of surface area, I've got 2 circles, or 2 triangles, I'm going to write that down again, plus all 3 rectangles. It's a lot of writing, but the details and writing will help you stay organized. Look at all the writing I already have for this problem. I have to keep it organized. It might take an extra minute or 2 to do that, but it will really benefit you. So I'm going to have 2 triangles, which are 150, and then each of my rectangles. And my surface area, when I add it all together, is 2,580. Okay? So that is the surface area of that rectangular prism. Okay, again, pause it if I'm going too fast. Otherwise, I'm just going to keep going. Here's number 2. Now, this is where we jump up a notch, being in geometry rather than being in Math 8. They don't find the surface area of a pentagonal prism like we do. So here's our picture, and I know that each side is 7.05. The height here is 9. And this side of my triangle inside is 6. So I want to find the surface area of the prism. So let's write down a plan. I'm going to have 2 pentagons, and then I'm going to have 5 rectangles. Okay? Now I wrote them down as all the same because they are all the same. My picture, I know, is not the greatest, never claimed to be an artist, but I'm told that this was a regular pentagon, okay? Which means all the sides are the same. So every side all the way around is the same. And the height is the same. So when I'm figuring out, like right here, one of these rectangles, they're all going to have 7.05 for that, and they're all going to have a height of 9 all the way around. Okay? So that's why I can group them all to be the same. Whereas up here, I mentioned this already, all 3 of these rectangles were different. So I wanted to keep them separate so I didn't forget anything or make a mistake. Okay, so now I need to find the height or the area of this pentagon here. So I redrew the bottom base with a larger so that we could see the triangle, and you'll remember this from the last chapter. And if I can find the area of one of these triangles, then I can figure out all the way around, right? So now the area of one of those triangles is 1/2 base times height. And what don't I have? I don't have the apothem, and I need that. So what am I going to do? Well, I have a right triangle here, as we remember from before, and I have a 6 for the hypotenuse, and I know one side length is 7.5. So if this one here is 7.5, this one here is 7.5. So if I just wanted half of that for that little triangle, I would cut 7.5 in half, and that's 3.525. Okay? So now I'm going to figure this out. So the area is going to be 1/2, actually I got to figure out the apothem. So I'm going to have a squared, which I don't know, and then I've got this b squared, which is 3.525, and then I'm going to have c squared, which is 6. Remember, I'm trying to find the apothem right now. Find the apothem first so that I can find the area of the triangle. Okay, so if I work that out, I get a squared plus, when I square that number, I get 12.426, and I square 6, and now I'll subtract, and I get a squared equals 23.5, about 5.7. I'm going to round it up to 5.7. And when I take the square root, I get a equals 4.86. So now, when I'm trying to find the area of the triangle, I know that this right here is 4.6. So my area formula is 1/2 base times height. So 1/2. Now, I used the 3.25 just to do half, and I used the Pythagorean theorem to find A. Now I want the area of the whole triangle. So I have this whole length. So that's going to be 7.05. Okay, so down here, this entire thing is 7.05, and that's my base. And the height is my apothem, which is 4.86. And when I work that out, I get 17.13. Okay? And then the area of all 5 is of the pentagon is 5 of those triangles, or you can use the formula from chapter 11, which was 1/2 a times n times s. Remember that? That will give you the same answer. All right, and I get 85.65. So one of my bases, all that work, yes, all that work, you are very advanced and capable geometry students. So we have more complicated work for you. One of our bases is 85.65. So let's go back over here. Now the surface area is going to be 2 times 85.65. Okay, now I need to figure out my rectangle. So like I said, it's this side rectangle. All the heights are 9, and all of the side lengths are 7.05. So that is 7.05 times 9, which equals 63.45. So I'm going to have 5 of those. I put that up here. Okay? So now, working that out, I get 171.3 plus 5 of my rectangles, which is 317.25, and I get 488.55. That is my final answer. If I wanted to wrap up the pentagon into a wrapping paper, I would need that much of it, 488.55. Okay? Like I said, pause it if you need to, rewind, do what you have to. I need to speak fast, and I'm sorry about that. But hopefully rewinding and pausing will help you to understand and keep up. Okay, number 3, I already wrote it down, the important facts, so I'll read it out loud. You're wrapping a stack of 20 compact discs using a shrink wrap. Each disc is a cylinder with the height of 1.2 millimeters. Okay, compact disc. And the radius is 60 millimeters. What is the minimum amount, right here, here's the question, what is the minimum amount of shrink wrap needed to cover the stack? Okay, so let's look at a picture of this. If I had a stack of my compact discs right here, and there's 20 of them, and each one is 1.2 millimeters, what would my height be for the whole stack? Well, that would be right there. Each one is 1.2 millimeters, and there's 20 of them, so I would get 24. So right there, my height is 24. Okay, so now I drew some other pictures. Let's look at those and talk about it. All right, so my surface area is going to be 2 circles plus 1 rectangle. All right? And if I drew the net of that, you can see here, I've got 2 circles right here, 1, 2. So that's my 2 circles right there in my plan. And then I have 1 rectangle. Now let's talk about this. I want to make sure it's really clear to you. How do I find this height? Well, if it's a cylinder, this rectangle would wrap around the cylinder. So the length up here on the top is the circumference of the circle. All right? And we already figured out that this is length times width, or actually we found that this is 24, right? From up here, we had 20 discs that were 1.2 millimeters each. Okay? So now, let's go back and look at both of these. So my area is going to be 2 circles plus 1 rectangle, which is length times width. All right, so I'm going to have 2 circles, and then I'm going to have my length times my width, and the length is 2 pi r, and the width is 24. I know that. So this one here times this one down here. Okay, so let's figure everything out. 2 pi, and then the radius squared. What was the radius? If I look up here, the radius is 60 millimeters. So I'm going to put 60 in here, and I'm going to square it. Plus 2 pi times 60 times 24. Okay, and if I work all that out, I get 3,600 times 2 pi, and that works out to be 11,304. And if I multiply 2 times pi times 60 times 24, I get 9,043.2. And when I add those together, oh, that was just 1. I'm so sorry. This was just 1. Okay, let's put the 2 there. So I've got 22,608 plus 9,043.2, and I get a total surface area of 31,651.2. So that is my total surface area, okay? Now, you may round differently a little bit, and so you might end up with an answer that is, instead of 651 here, you might have 652 or 653, depending on how you round your numbers. So the direction should tell you how exactly to round your numbers. If they don't, there might be a slight difference between your answer and the book answer. It might be off by a couple points. That's okay. You can just go back and check your work, and I know that as well. So if on the test, I should have it to tell you what to round to, okay? Just so you know. All right, let's do number 4. Find the height of the cylinder. Okay, so this time we have this picture. Please pause it and draw the picture if you need to. We know the surface area. We know the whole outside already. What I don't know is the height. So that's what I'm going to find. But I'm going to use a similar way of solving it. I'm just going to fill in the numbers a little different. So let's talk about the plan. The plan of finding the surface area would be 2 circles plus 1 rectangle. Okay? So now I'm going to have a surface area, and I'm going to have let's find what 1 circle is. So I've got 1 circle is pi r squared, and that would be pi times 2.5 squared. Okay? So I know that the radius here is 2.5. All right? So that works out to be 6.25 pi, and the number for that is 19.625. All right? Okay, now to get the rectangle, I'm going to have length times width, right? And I know it's going to be the circumference of the circle is the length of my rectangle, and then I'm going to multiply that by the height. Okay, so let's see how that works out. I've got 2 pi, and then the radius, which is 2.5 times the height. All right, now 2 times 3.14 times 2.5, that works out to be 15.7 times the height. Do we know the height? No, we don't. That's actually what we're trying to solve for. So now let's put all of our numbers together. So I have my surface area equals 2 circles up here. So let's come down here and put our numbers in. I've got 2 times my 19.625 plus I have 1 rectangle, 15.7H, right there. Okay? Now, I know this is 157.08. I know that. And when I multiply this, I get 39.25. And I know 15.7. What I don't know is the H. And now I'm going to solve for the h. We're running into your OYOs down here, so I'm going to move over here. I'm going to rewrite that. 157.08 equals 39.25 plus 15.7h. Okay, so now I just rewrote it up here. I'm going to solve for h, so I'm going to subtract 39.25 on both sides, and I get 117.83 equals 15.7h. All right, and now I divide by 15.7 on both sides, and I get 7.5. So the height of the cylinder is 7.5. Okay, so I want you to do a couple. I drew the pictures here for you. Find the surface area of the rectangular prism right here and the cylinder with a height of 18 and a radius of 10. So go ahead and pause the video again, and we will come back in a few minutes and go over it. Okay, so let's write out the plan for the rectangular prism. That would be the surface area is 2 squares plus 2 rectangles plus 2 more. So in this case, I've got this one here is going to be the same as the one in the back, right? And then I'll have this rectangle here is the same as the one over across from it over there. And then I have the one on top is the same as the one on the bottom. So my surface area is going to be 3 sets of 2 sides that are the same. I have 6 sides. So let's do the front. The front is 3 times 4. So I've got 2 times 12. All right? Now if this is 3 here, then this height will be 3 over here. So I've got 2 times 3 times 7. So I've got 2 times 21. And then the top, if this is 4 down here, it has to be 4 up here. And if this is 7 here, this will be 7 up here. I've got 2 times 4 times 7, which is 28. Okay, so if I work that out, I get 24 plus 42 plus 56, and that equals 122. Okay, now you can see I did a lot of writing because you want me to see what you did. Because if you did make a mistake, you want me to find your mistake. Because if I find that right here, for instance, you put 2 times 21 is 44 instead of 42, or 54 instead of 52 instead of 42, I can see where you made the mistake. If you don't show your work, I won't know. Okay, over here, I'm going to have a surface area of 2 circles plus 1 rectangle in between. So each circle is pi r squared, which would be, let's see, I have a radius of 10. So that's going to be pi times 10 squared, which is 100 pi. And that works out to 314. Okay, now my rectangle is going to be 2 pi r times h, right? So that's going to be 2 pi times the radius, which is 10, times h, which is 18. And that works out to be 1130. Okay? So now back to up on top, my surface area, I'm going to have 2 circles plus the rectangle in between. And if I add that all together, I get 1758. That's my answer. And this looks a little funky because you think, wow, this is so much bigger than each circle. And really, the picture of the circle, well, yeah, that's about right, actually. They should be about the same. The distance across the circle should be 10, 10, and then this would be about here, like this. Anyway, so that's 18. Okay. Now, I hope you got those. We're going to do one more together. I normally do this as an OIO, but I know that we're not in class. I can't help you as much, so I just want to do this one together. Find the radius of a cylinder with a surface area of 208 pi and a height of 5 feet. Okay, so my plan is going to be, go ahead and pause it if you need to copy this down. My plan is 2 circles and 1 rectangle in between. So I know I have 208 pi, and I have 2 times pi r squared, right? And then the formula for this is going to be the circumference of the circle times the height. 2 pi r times h. So let's put the numbers in that we know. Alright, I know that I've got 5 for a height, so I've got 208 pi, and I'm trying to find the radius. So I don't know that, so I'm just going to write this as 2 pi r squared. I don't know the radius yet. And I know that the height is 5 here. Okay, so then I have 208 pi equals 2 pi r squared plus 10 pi r. Okay? Now, look at these terms. I want to solve for r. Okay? So I'm going to, I've got r squared. Look at, I have r squared, I've got r, I've got a term without r. Okay, I want to factor out any common factors. All 3 terms have pi. So I'm going to try to get rid of that. And all 3 factors are divisible by 2. So I'm going to divide everything by 2 pi and see what happens. Okay? So here the pi's cancel, and 208 divided by 2 is 104. Here 2 2's cancel and the pi's do. Oh my, look at this. And here the pi's cancel and this becomes 5r, right? The r's left and 10 over 2 is 5. This looks like algebra. Now when we have an equation with the power of 2, we have to factor. So we use magic X, and the first thing I need to do is move my 104 to the other side. So this problem is an example of algebra review, which is part of our standards for geometry, just to refresh your memory. Okay, so you can either use